Hey everyone, this is Bounce Band Chat, and today we're going to be doing an interview with a well-known author named Martínez Barberi. Hope you enjoy. Goes for about an hour long. We'll talk about his book style, his influences, where he's from, what he believes in, religion. It's going to be an interesting chat. Stay around and check it out. This is Bounce Band Chat. I'm Liam. So we got Martínez Barberi. How are you doing?
Well, that's Barberi. It's an Italian last name.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'm half Spaniard. Well, actually, I'm a combination of things: Ukrainian, Polish, on the one side of a family, Spaniard, Italian.
Nice. So are you
and Mexican, born and raised in Mexico.
You were born and raised in Mexico? Wow.
Yes, Mexico City, actually. Yeah.
What's that like?
Well, Mexico City is, like any big city in the world, similar to, I guess, New York or London, Paris. You have a little bit of everything. You can find a little bit of everything. It was dangerous for a while, though, which is why I left. Now I live in a very small town. But it's not really that small, which is called Cholula. And this is home to the largest pyramid in the world, actually, the pyramid of Cholula.
Wow, I haven't heard of this. I love pyramids. You got to tell us more about this.
Right. Yeah, I suggest you Google it. I'll send you some info later. See, the thing with this pyramid is that it was concealed by, well, basically the wilderness, and it's got several layers, but most of them are underground. So you can only see the top of the pyramid, and it's all covered in, well, basically grass and moss, root. And on top of the pyramid, the conquistadors came and they built a church. So it took archaeologists like eons to find the pyramid, but it's larger in diameter. It's larger than the Cheops pyramid in Egypt.
Wow, that's crazy. Is there like more mythology around that town?
Well,
the pyramid?
The funny thing about the pyramid here in Cholula is that, I'm a big fan of history's ancient aliens, and there's this small head. It's like a sculpture, it's lying there on the ground in what seems to be a ceremonial yard, like there's an altar and everything. And it looks like an alien, I swear to you. I mean, it does look like an alien. And also the air feels back like a gravity well or something. It's, I've always been fascinated with all this stuff, life in other worlds and, history, especially pre-Hispanic history here in Mexico, which is so rich, Yeah. I've been to the Mayan Riviera and, it's awesome. The pyramids there, the archaeological sites. Here, it's just a pyramid. I think it was a ceremonial center where the people from nations nearby, for instance, the Aztecs, they would come here and hold their religious ceremonies. So that's what makes it interesting. You can go underground, too, and explore the tunnels and everything. Haven't been there because I'm claustrophobic,
Yeah. Hey, I've been to one of this tunnel called, in Japan, it's a Buddhist pyramid. Buddhist temple. It's called Re-Entry
Right.
Birth. I don't know if you've heard of it. You go down and then you come back up, but the whole thing's black. So the idea was like you're in and getting rebirth, and you've been down there for a while. It's so dark. When you see the light, you're like, whoa.
Yeah. My eyes are going like, I'm seeing dots and flashes, right? Let me focus. Yeah. That's the reason why I haven't been down, to the pyramid. I've just been around the place and everything. But it's, it's an interesting situation because Cholula, it was populated by a nation known as the Cholotecs because of the place. And it's like 10,000 years old, this place. So right now you have a very nice mix of typical Mexican architecture, very bright colors and stuff like that, like a little pueblo, so to speak. And at the same time, you have all this pre-Hispanic, pre-Columbian stuff, which makes it a very, I guess you could say, a very picturesque little town, very picturesque.
Yeah, right.
Supply it.
Have you heard of Graham Hancock's theory that the pyramids are like an energy center? That kind of,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's the amazing thing, because I've been to, like, well, I've never been to Egypt or any other place, but when you have them at home here, I've been to like five, six different places, and this is exactly what I was trying to describe to you in this ceremonial area, which is sort of like a round or circumferential, I guess you could describe it, like an auditorium,
Mm-hmm.
with the altar at the center, and there's like a stone slab in the middle, which is where I guess the human sacrifices were made, or kings crowned and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you feel the air, the thickness in the air, the electricity in the air. So I'm pretty sure there must be some truth to that rumor,
Yeah, maybe you never know, right?
Yeah, it's like there's so many things that are, so many new discoveries every day, with technology these days, that you really don't know. You really don't know what they're gonna come up with next, right?
True. It's like talking about the pyramids and where you're living, and looking at your cover here for the keeper of the balance,
Right.
the pinnacle of power. It looks very mystical. It looks very, it's like it's almost got a pyramid kind of halo structure. What's going on here, or is it emitting energy? Is that kind of where the inspiration came from?
Yes, actually, the book basically, I think it's like I'm a big fan of Star Wars. I mean, anyone who has read books will notice Lucas's influence on my work. I even stand up for the guy concerning the prequels. Okay, don't hate me, but because I think his ideas were brilliant. It was the execution of the films that failed. And I started doing research on his influences. And so I started, to investigate and learn more about Buddhism. And that's, the different planes of creation that the Buddha was exposing. And this, I just went like, wow, this is a hell of a great idea, for a book. So the book does revolve around that. What you see in the cover is, I'm sorry, basically it's the whole of the Selected, and the Selected are a secret society that worship this interdimensional entity that is basically obsessed with power.
Mm-hmm.
Greed unbridled, that's what the figure stands for. And in the middle, you have like this obelisk, it's a monolith, which is the Inforacle, that's the Oracle of Information, which according to me, it's the container of all the great mysteries and secrets of the universe. And so that's the pinnacle of power, because they say knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And that's what the book is about. So it's about a struggle for knowledge, basically, and how do you use it when you gain it? Do you use it for personal gain, or do you use it to help other people? Right. And that's the core of the tale. It's not your typical struggle between light and darkness or good and evil, but more like service to self as opposed to service to others.
Right. That whole idea, whether you use power to control the people or use power to, influence.
Exactly. Or to share knowledge. I mean, I've always been a big believer that knowledge belongs to all of humankind, and that we should all share it and, exchange ideas and even debate them, if you will, because debate, I believe, is a very healthy thing. And energy is at the core of the story, precisely. There's even this concept that I came up with, which I call the spark of connection. And this is based on the little Buddha that Buddhists say that we have inside us, that if we can actually awaken it or kindle it, we will reach enlightenment. And the funny thing is that Gnostic Christians also believe in the divine spark, which is a similar concept. So I was doing research on all these, different religions and belief systems, and I decided to use that stuff for for my starting point, so to speak. And the whole thing with Star Wars is because it's very similar to the concept of the Force, right? I mean, this energy field that you can feel. Once characters have downloaded the pinnacle of power from the Inforacle, they also come to gain psychic skills, that allow them to enter a different dimension or a different plane, which I call the intangible world, which is basically the ethereal, energetic realm.
Yeah, right. For the readers who haven't seen your book yet, can you describe maybe like the setting? Is it something where it's a human on Earth, or is it something like
Absolutely.
Star Wars, a bit of a mix?
It is a 100% fictional world, planet called Acladia, which I like to describe like a futuristic alternative or alternate version of Earth in a parallel universe. Not too futuristic, let's say, imagine where we'll be 50, 60 years from now. There are no problems with pollution in Acladia because everything is dependent on sun and wind power. And there's even flying cars and everything.
Cool.
And but I wanted to use a combination of things where the setting would feel familiar to the reader, while at the same time realizing that this isn't Earth.
Mm.
So instead of laptop computers, for instance, you have cyberports, which is a portable cyber drive. Instead of a CPU, you have a cyber drive.
Yeah.
And instead of a cell phone, you have a portable phone. Stuff like that people can relate to. Instead of a tablet, you have a technopad.
Right.
And well, there's holographic technology, and like I was saying, and basically that's about it. So it's I guess it's a fantasy sci-fi mashup.
Yeah.
And the thing here is that I also delve into the world of secret societies bent on world domination. Your typical 1% versus the 99% of a world. And, I remember reading a book, I don't know if you've read it, The Matracy Circle by Robert Ludlum.
Don't think I have.
It's an excellent spy thriller. It's a little outdated, because it was written at the height of the Cold War. And it deals with this secret society, the Matracy Circle, which is bent on world domination. And there's two spies, Soviet agent and Telenikov and the U.S. operative. They hate each other, because one had killed the other's girlfriend or something like that, and he had vowed to avenge her death. And they have to work together in order to stop the Matracy from putting someone in the White House, one of their members.
Yeah.
And this book was a huge influence on me. So I started doing research on secret societies and how they work and everything. And well, it's not like they're going to tell you, right? But you try your best. And I thought it was interesting, to combine all these things that I find appealing, and that hopefully the readers will also, they will have fun, delving into Acladia.
Yeah. Have you shown people who like Star Wars your book, and have you got feedback on what they think?
Well, the funny thing is that, the book has strong comparisons to Star Wars, some of my reviews, but also to classic dystopian novels like 1984 and Huxley's Brave New World. And some people have even compared it with A Song of Ice and Fire, which to me was great praise because I also love George R. R. Martin's books. But I guess this has more to do with the way the book, I use the unreliable narrator style, so the chapters are told from different characters' points of view. Mm. And some people have even compared it with The Matrix, because you have this illusion, the real world. It's the other way around. It's the opposite from The Matrix. The real world is the illusion. Mm-hmm. And this intangible world, which is the energetic realm, like I was saying. So it's not really, like a lot of people have told me, hey, this is cool because it's similar to Star Wars. But the funny thing is how many people have found similarities to stuff that, well, actually, has been very influential to me,
Mm. Talking about, Matrix, Star Wars, different realms. What's your thoughts on, reality and Buddhism and the illusion of life? Like, do you believe that, this is just an illusion and we go back to, some kind of Bardo realm, or there's different stages of realms? And do you believe in maybe the 9 jhanas of reaching like the highest state? And what's enlightenment to you?
Well, I believe that the most important thing is in the title of the series itself, balance. To me, that's enlightenment.
Yeah.
Reaching a point where you get to know yourself. This is what the mentor archetype in the book, Dr. Kuslav Maynard, tells my protagonist, basically the character that is on the hero's journey.
Mm.
The most important thing is to be responsible. I believe in free will.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in freedom. I believe freedom is the most sacred of all things. But you cannot be free unless you are responsible and balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, hey, you can do anything. I think this is pretty much what the Buddha said. Just as long as you don't hurt other people and you act irresponsibly. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the key to, I don't know, living in perfect harmony or utopia, something like that. And that's why I put it up against greed in my book, because I've heard it say, I've heard people say that hate isn't the opposite to love, but fear.
Mm.
In this case, I also believe that ambition is good. You have to be ambitious in order to reach your goals. But when you become greedy and when you want to take more and more, and you don't care about using other people to reach your ends, I think that's when things become imbalanced. And I think that's when we devolve. Instead of evolving and progressing like as a race,
Right. Yeah, interesting thoughts.
Thanks.
I mean, like talking about.
Out there, but,
sorry.
I said I'm a little out there, but yeah.
Hey man, aren't we all? You got to be a little bit crazy to be in this world, right?
I agree. Yeah, definitely. Otherwise, you're gonna go insane.
That's true. I mean, you're talking about free will. Have you heard the conversation about whether we have free will, and that the idea that we're just this, creation and connection of our birth, our environment, and that all collects to what we are doing, what we do. So it doesn't matter whether we go left or right. That's going to decide whether we go left. Or do you think that the free will is more something that's tangible in terms of we can manipulate and influence our biological state and what we've been born with and with our environment?
Well, I believe in the power of the mind, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, for instance, if you have a history, medical history in your family where you've had, your great-grandfather died of a stroke, a heart attack, and then one of your parents and stuff like that, if you start telling yourself, I'm going to have a heart attack, I'm going to have a stroke, and I'm going to die because of it someday, then it's going to happen. I do believe in the power of attraction, and the law of attraction, where you really put yourself in a position where your mind takes you in a different, in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And this is something that I was discussing with a friend just the other day concerning how everything seems to be so coincidental in classic tales, whether it's a film or it's a book, where how the characters come together. And we were talking about my books precisely, and I said my reasoning here is that people come together when they share something in common. If you love music, chances are you're gonna go to concerts, and that's where you're gonna meet people who share your preferences, right? What you love.
Yeah.
And, or a political rally or whatever. And I believe that this is what we all have, something that drives us and that takes us on a certain path, even though you are not forced to follow that path. You do it because it feels right,
Right.
We're good at doing something, I mean, Michael Jordan, can you picture him doing anything else other than playing basketball?
Oh, really?
Usain Bolt, doing something that is not, running in the Olympics.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that seems like we have no choice. It's kind of like a Tao, we're born with it. And then what you said, we go with the flow. You're kind of like, well, if it feels good, we do it. If we don't, then we don't. So like, maybe there isn't free will. Maybe it's just an experience that we go with to feel good. What do you think?
Well, I think that, I think it's a combination of both things, because I could never, for instance, do something for a living where I didn't enjoy myself, I would just wither and die, truly, and at the same time, I couldn't force myself to do something that I love. I love music, for instance, and I play a little guitar, but not to the level where I could actually become a rock star. So it's like, okay, I love this. I love listening to music and I love singing along to my favorite tunes. But at the same time, I am aware of my limitations, and I couldn't do that for a living, for instance. And this is something that I've always thought about art. I think that there's it's subjective. You cannot tell someone, okay, this is a good piece of art or this is crap, basically, because that's dependent on your taste, your preferences. And I encourage people, people who try their hand at writing, aspiring authors, even though I'm just beginning myself. Listen, there's no way you can write a bad book. Some people will like it, some people won't. You just have to get good at your craft.
That's so right. Yeah.
But don't let anyone tell you that you can't do this, even if you're turned down by a gazillion publishers. I mean, really, it sounds like a cliche, but you got to believe in yourself. And trust that whatever you do, if you like it, there's people like you out there who will also like it. So at the same time, you cannot put limits on yourself. And this is where I think free will comes into play, because people keep telling you, no, forget about it. You can't do this. You're not going to make it. And you can go like, why the hell not? Why not? I think that's the key question here. And basically, that's where I think, you have the scale. On the one hand, what am I good at? What do I like? And if you can combine it, you have made the choice yourself. It's not like it's being made by the outside world. Yeah. Whereas if you listen to all those outer voices telling you what you can and you cannot do, that's when you forget all about your freedom of choice and free will.
Makes sense. So when did, for the readers, following you, when did you first start, doing this? When was the moment where I said, this feels right? When should I should start writing? Why not?
Well, it's a funny story. I had written, admittedly, it was a piece of fan fiction about, 15 years ago or something like that. And I totally forgot about it. And then there was this one time when my girlfriend at the time, she couldn't sleep. And so she, turned my computer on and she started just, browsing, and she found it. And she spent the whole night reading what I had written, and the next day, after she woke up late, of course, she told me, something, you got to try your hand at writing your own thing. Mm. You have a talent for this, and don't waste it away by writing fan fiction, and that's really what got me started. That's when I said, this was about 9 years ago, 2007. And that's when I started going like, okay, maybe she's right. Maybe I should try my hand at this. And, the relationship went nowhere. I think credit where credit is due. It was this girl who gave me the last push that I needed. Mm-hmm. And it came to me so naturally, so quickly, like everything that I wanted to explore, sorry. I immediately wrote a draft, but the catch here is that I procrastinated for about a year, because I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure if this was going to work or not, and finally I sat down back in 2008, and that's when I started writing The Keeper of the Balance.
Nice. It sounds like you had a good kick-off, and what was your challenges along the way, do you think?
Well, the first challenge was that I wanted to tell my own take on the hero's journey, mm-hmm. to present it in a way that would feel fresh and original. I don't know if I succeeded. The reader will always have the last word, but that was a challenge. Okay, how do I introduce a mentor figure without making him seem like a bad copy of Gandalf, for instance, or a bad copy of Yoda or something like that, and how do I introduce certain archetypes that feel like organic, like this isn't something that where the reader goes like, oh man, this is contrived to sell, yeah. Or late or something like that. And that was the biggest challenges that I faced at first. And then the story takes a life of its own. I mean, again, that's a cliche. 9 out of every 10 authors will tell you this, but it's true. The characters start dictating to you. Wait a minute, this is out of character for me, or how do you get me from point A to point B?
Yeah.
So but this was already, when I was already working on book 2 or 3. It's the series is going to be 4 books in all.
Nice.
And I'm currently working on book 4, and also going back to check up on your work, looking for plot holes. That's also a big challenge for me, because sometimes I get so caught up in, okay, I got a great idea in my head, and I start typing away, and then I go like, wait a minute. What about, how did they get to this point? When you have the characters here and you're getting them here.
Yeah. How did you evolve, writing? Do you sit at home and you write a little bit each day, and how long did it take you to write these books?
Well, I would say it's taken me about an average of 2 years per book, because I've been working for 8 years, and I'm already starting with book 4. I don't know if I'm a pantser or planner, to be totally honest with you. All I know is that sometimes, it's one of the reasons why I work here in my studio, because it gives me the freedom to talk to myself out loud, like looking at,
It seemed to lost connection. You there, Tito?
hello, are you there?
Yeah, you're coming back.
Okay, I lost you for a second. So, well, that's basically how it happens. And then I sit down and I start writing. I don't worry about punctuation, grammar, or anything. I start writing because sometimes I get the flashes in my head, like if I was watching an actual film, and I just write it all down.
We're back.
We're back. Yeah.
Sorry, continue on.
I don't know. Okay. So, well, basically, that's about it. I have a very visual imagination, and that's where the ideas come to me first. Like I have a picture in my head. How is this? I don't know, this city or this town. How does it look? I'm also very careful of planning a culture beforehand, before I write it down. Because if you're going to tell a story that takes place in an entire universe, you can't expect everyone to have, to be named John Smith or Mary Sue, right? So, it takes some research, some time to research all these names, and when people read the books, well, they will find names where they will go like, okay, this sounds like typical German to me, or perhaps, or like Asian, and stuff like that, because, I wanted to make it as real as possible, while at the same time not taking a long time to expose my world.
Yeah, right. We're gonna get straight to the point and make sure your readers understand, but feel like it's got enough diversity to maybe be this different world. That's cool.
Exactly. To have, a place like, okay, so how does this city sound to you? Like Hengtashi? Well, that sounds like, I don't know, perhaps Chinese or Korean or something like that. And then there's another one called Stroud, which sounds German, stuff like that, where the readers will go like, okay, this is a real world. Personally, I become a little tired of reading fantasy and sci-fi books where everyone, again, is, everything seems to be happening in a small town somewhere in the, in the Midwest in the U.S., So that's important to me, also to do this research on different cultures, so that I can come up with a combination of things. And really, every character's name is a combination of things that describe their personality in different tongues.
Right. Do you do a lot of research for your books, besides obviously, taking the influence from Star Wars, where you are in New Mexico and your background? Do you actually go out and take some time to maybe spend like a month researching a topic?
Yeah, I had to do research on. There's a scene in book two which takes place in a very large freighter, you know, and so I had to do research on freighters, the size, the capacity of these kind of ships, and basically, and also a certain type of jungle or tropical forest, the mangrove,
Mm.
and the funny thing is that I came up with this idea for this exotic jungle, and I wrote down mangrove. And then when I did the research, I said, "Hey, I wasn't so lost. I sort of had an idea of how this works." But yeah, you need to get an idea how. I've never been in a private plane, and there are private planes in a book. So again, I also have to know all about size, dimension, stuff like that. Even though it's futuristic planes, they're called turbo planes instead of airplanes. You still have to, well, you still have to make sure that this thing can fly, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do research. It doesn't take that long, probably one a full day, just to browsing the net, googling things up, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's very good because when I read a book and or watch a movie or see an art, if there's that little bit of like, hey man, that can't be right, like I don't think this is
Right.
correct, it might like discourage people. I mean, that doing that little bit of research, say, well, I guess that's plausible. Continue on.
Right. Oh, I was also fortunate to have a friend, Adam. He's from the States, from Seattle. He's a martial arts instructor, and I had his support, as a basically as a consultant for all the action scenes, because I came up with this concept. It's sort of like my tribute to the lightsaber. I said, what can be as cool as a lightsaber or something, and I came up with a concept of a malleable blade. It expands or contracts according to the will of its user. It's like you send commands with your mind to the blade, and it will expand or contract to the size of a longsword, like a katana, for instance,
Hmm.
or the size of a dirk, depending on the fighter's needs. So I consulted with my friend Adam because, whenever I had a malleable duel, I needed to know what is possible as far as martial arts is concerned. And he also gave me some very cool tips about training. How an apprentice, how does an apprentice get to the point where you can deem them ready? This is something that I was very interested in exploring, especially in the first book. I didn't want my main characters training to be, an express kind of thing, like in the Matrix, precisely. You just plug in and, whoa, I know kung fu.
Yeah.
No, this guy will spend 4 or 5 years in rigorous, harsh training. If I really want him to get to the point where he can be a threat, a serious threat, and and Adam was telling me, all these senseis, they're very harsh on their apprentices, because they have to be. You're training to become a warrior. It's not like you're attending college, And there's a line in the book where it says like, this isn't like a regular job, As a warrior, a mistake on your job might take your life. So I wanted to illustrate this, and Adam was very helpful in that sense.
Nice. It's good to have that kind of advice, a consultant on certain situations you don't understand. It's also good to talk to them. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. Did you take anything away from that, for martial arts, like other than that?
Well, yeah, the discipline factor, again, to the power of the mind, how important it is for you to overcome your own fears, your own insecurities, and also how to learn to keep your temper in check, your emotions in check. You know, when my character starts training, the mentor, without giving too much away, hopefully, the mentor tells him, "You're afraid. You're afraid of your own power. You don't want to hurt someone else, but you're afraid that you might let go and might get to like the feeling, And so finding that balance and disciplining your mind to the point where you are in control of your emotions, that was something that I found very interesting about the research I did on martial arts.
It sounds like to me that if a person was to read your book, without knowing, they will take quite a few lessons away, about self-discipline, about spatial expansion, about, new technologies, about creating a new imagination for what possible adventures. It sounds like they can get quite a lot of out of the book.
Well, hopefully, yeah. The funny thing with the book is that, I was dealing with stuff that, I'm dealing with stuff that I find it interesting, not only, based on my influences as far as fantasy and fiction is concerned, but also historic events. I believe George R. R. Martin was the one who said fantasy is just history taken to the max. I mean, you extrapolate on real events, and to me, the important thing is, yeah, well, basically to entertain people. But if they can get, a positive message out of my work or something that will help them in their everyday lives, basically, that's great. That would be just awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
You mind if I have a smoke?
Of course, man. Go for it. Let's go, Johnny Depp. Let's go. What's his name? Hunter S.
That's where I need discipline. That's where I need discipline. I need to quit smoking. I need to train my mind to stop loving this death sticks.
I mean, when I used to smoke, man, it was the best. I knew like I felt bad, but it felt so good at the same time.
Yeah. My throat was starting to itch, going like, hey, I need my fix. I need my fix, But that's the thing with us writers, whether, I don't know, I don't drink a lot of coffee, but I do smoke. And sometimes when I'm writing, I'm going like, oh gosh, man, I mean, a full pack already. Well, how long have I been working? And that's how I realized that I've been working all day long.
Yeah. Do you use other drugs besides, coffee? I mean, like, it's interesting to say when you meet a normal person who isn't so creative, they tend to be, oh, drugs are bad, don't do them. Law says no. But in my mind, when I'm creating art, I have maybe a coffee or a cigarette, even some like a little bit of marijuana when I was younger. It kind of like it helps like kickstart it and like push in different directions. Do you find that also?
Actually, well, I did smoke some marijuana when I was younger, but my trips were always bad, to be honest with you, because my mind is always going, at 100 miles per hour or something like that. So it didn't really help the creative process. What I found that is wonderful is meditation. Really, I do consider it a natural drug. You lie down for 15, 20 minutes or sit down for 15, 20 minutes and you just let go, focus on your breathing, breathe in, breathe out. And when when I snap out of the trance, it's like a real high for me, and it opens up my mind in a way where I feel relaxed and I can actually get inspired to write,
Yeah.
I'm also a rehabbed alcoholic, even though that was just for entertainment, actually, and I really feel the difference. It's like day and night because I was a really heavy drinker, and now it's like my memories are clearer. I feel a lot more relaxed. So I believe. I guess it depends. I believe that you've got to find that point. Sorry, that where you feel like you can get an edge.
Yeah.
So to speak, whatever it is, just again, like I say in the book, it's keep the balance, just keep the balance. Just don't let go.
So, like, were you writing when you were an alcoholic, or did you kind of like, as soon as you stopped drinking so much, then start writing? So maybe you kind of like switched over, or is it kind of like a transition?
It did coincide because I got the idea. When I got the idea, I was that was the last year that I was a heavy drinker, and actually I think this is one of the reasons I was procrastinating so much, because I would go out with my friends, we for a few drinks, or a lot of drinks, and I couldn't stop talking about the book. And I got all these ideas, and then I came back home the next day, and I went like, whatever happened to all the stuff I was telling these guys last night? Those were awesome ideas.
Yeah.
And so that's why, after I stopped drinking, I guess that's when I started to really get to work, when I said, okay, now it's time to get serious, and get down to business.
Yeah. I guess you had, when you woke up from the alcohol, you're still in a state of shock and still hungover, that you had no energy to kind of like support the
Yeah, the muse, you know, she leaves you. You know, she leaves. She's not there because it's like, yeah, exactly. You have a terrible headache, or you know, you're in a bad mood, or probably embarrassed because you did something stupid last night while you were drinking. Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
Cool.
But I'm sorry. In this case, you know, I focus. Well, I wish I could live off of my books, you know, but I still have to have a day job. And so I become very good at working at compartmentalizing things, you know, going, you know, switching my brain off of my work, my regular job, and becoming the writer again, or the author. And I guess this makes it easier for me to never get writer's block, I guess, you know, because I thoroughly enjoy my time writing. So, you know, it's not like, you know, I'm under any pressure. You know, I don't have to meet any deadlines as an indie author or anything like that. You know, again, I just have to make sure that my book is at the best, you know, the quality is at the best possible level. But other than that, I can go at my own pace. And so the stress level just goes down really, really, it's really noticeable.
Yeah. Do you think if you quit your day job and you were doing, you know, writing full time, that maybe the stress would go up and it'd start feeling more like work? Or do you think that you can manage without it, you know, and keep that flow?
I think I could manage because of my job. I work as a translator, which is also very, very helpful to me as a writer. You know, you pay a lot of attention to your work because as a translator, you basically have no editor. You know, you work on a translation, you have to make perfectly certain that it's the best possible translation, and then you hand it to your customer. And in this case, sometimes, you know, I get a translation and my client will tell me, okay, I need this by Monday, 5 p.m. And it's a big document, or it's very complex legal language or stuff like that, you know, filled with technicalities. And you have to deliver. You have to meet the deadline. Yeah. So I think I can easily transfer that experience, you know, to my writing if I were to be able, you know, to work as a writer 100% of the time, full time.
Yeah. So what if someone said to you, "Hey, Tito, here's $1 million. Go write 3 books in a year." Would you do it?
I think I could. Yeah, definitely. But here's the catch, and at the risk of sounding arrogant, I'm not interested in selling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books if this means that I won't be able to, you know, if this means that I would have to tone it down as far as, you know, the complexities that I like to explore in my work. You know, still I believe, you know, George R. R. Martin, you know, his work is A Song of Ice and Fire is really complex. You know, it's for a smart reader, and so this gives me a lot of hope. But then again, the guy is taking 5-6 years to deliver his books. You know, so yeah, it's like I guess what I'm trying to say is that I would rather cook a gourmet meal than flip a burger. You know, and yeah, I can flip burgers. You know, well, 1,000 burgers per minute. But wouldn't you prefer 1 book per year? You know, or something like that? But I think I could handle it. Yeah,
I think fans can handle, you know, waiting, and most do. You know, if it's good quality work, they'll be like, okay, I'll wait for it. You know, it's worth it.
Absolutely. You know, I can. Well, before being an author, you're a fan of others' work yourself. You know, and I don't mind. I'm sorry. I started reading A Song of Ice and Fire long before the TV show Game of Thrones was in the air on the air. You know, so I've been waiting a long time for the next book. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. For me, the wait is worth it. And, you know, I would never get to that point. I think, again, there has to be a balance between, okay, you know, the author is not the reader's bitch, you know, but at the same time, you do have a certain responsibility to your readers, I believe, you know, where it's not about keeping them happy. If you don't like my latest book, well, I'm sorry, you know, this is my vision, and I'm only asking you to respect it. But at the same time, I have to give you something, you know, because if it's not because of my readers, then I can't put food on the table, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Would you? I want to ask you. Would you do a movie? You know, with the 5 series. Once the 5 series is done.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think some things would have to be, it would have to be a major adaptation because there are certain things in a book that, wouldn't work all that well on film. But yeah, I definitely think it would be a very good idea, or I'd be very excited, to be able to turn the films, turn the books into films.
Yeah, I mean, like the guy who did the Martian, he wrote chapter by chapter, and sort of like what we're doing with the bouncer pen. And then people really liked him. They said, "Hey, why don't you do a movie?" And hey, what do you know? He's got more.
I just watched The Martian the other day. Actually, funny that you would mention that. I love the film, by the way.
Yeah,
Just a couple.
It was a good film, right?
It's a good film. Yeah, it's a. I was watching the film, mindful that it was based on a novel. I was going like, wow, this guy does know his physics, or his science, because I don't know if I could write something like that, 100% sci-fi, based on Earth or futuristic Earth, Mars, our solar system, and that's what stuck out the most to me, how real it felt, like this. This is something that I can actually see some 25, 50 years from now, us humans colonizing Mars, definitely.
Yeah. Well, what was I going to say? Basically, we can go to space, right? Richard Branch is creating these space vehicles. Would you go?
Again, my problem is claustrophobia, man.
What if it was big?
Teleportation is real. Once teleportation or wormholes are real, I'm there. I'll be the first one there. Absolutely. When I was a kid, I dreamt of being an astronaut, and then a Jedi, but both things, I want to travel through space, So, yeah, absolutely. How about you? Would you do it?
Yeah, of course. I would love to. I mean, I'm not claustrophobic, so it's like I'm always up for those one-time experiences to get that influence and to feel what it's like, maybe to float. Like that'd be crazy in my mind.
Oh yeah, floating in the middle of space, in the middle of a vacuum. Yeah. See, that's the problem for me, is that sometimes I got to get on a plane, right? So, I try everything. Meditation work helps a lot, but a plane, a couple of hours, 5 hours tops, maybe 15 hours, and you're there. But, traveling in space, I mean, you're talking about years, You're going to be stuck in this, the space ship for months or even years. That's my issue with it. There have to be some attractive women on board, of course.
Always, man. You can't do it without attractive women.
Oh, no. It's like one of my characters. He says, gotta love women. Without them, life loses its zest, I mean, absolutely. Well, the author's ideas always are reflected in your work. But, if the crew is made up of attractive females, then I'm all up for it. Where do I sign up for it?
Awesome. So I'd like to wrap the interview up. But before I do, I just want to ask a question at the end of the interview. If you could go back to the 20-year-old Tito, what would you say to him? Maybe giving him advice or some insight about what your life has gone through?
Whoa, that's a great question. Let me think for a second. I don't want to hold you up, but
okay.
I guess my advice to my own 20-year-old self would be listen to your instinct first and foremost. This doesn't mean don't listen to anyone out there, but everyone thinks that they have good advice. And you have to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. That's what I would tell myself, I mean, listen to everyone, but don't follow them blindly. Don't do what they tell you to do. Yeah. Analyze first, see if it feels right to you, in accordance to your instinct. And that's when you can actually put good advice, to work for you.
I think that's great.
That's because I was well, thanks. That's because I was a little insecure. I was a little shy, and I kept doing what people told me to do, and sometimes, well, many times things didn't work out. So it would be like, hey, it's perfectly fine. Listen to your own self and make sure that, this feels right to you.
I mean, we all live our own lives. And for me, I think I can draw on that advice specifically because when I'm young, you go, all right, let's go. These guys are successful. Let's do what they do. And then you try it out and it doesn't work. And you go, well, hang on, why is it not working? And
Right.
because it's what works for them doesn't work for you. So you got to listen to yourself. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's you're a young man, a smart young man, and I'm pretty sure you don't need a whole lot of advice. I think you have your priorities set and everything. But if you are going to listen to people's advice, it's kind of like making a list, checking what works and crossing what doesn't work, And this doesn't even mean that the people who are giving you the advice they have. I believe everyone means well. But it's just like what you said. Exactly. What works for some people doesn't necessarily work for others. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, it's been great talking to you, Tito.
You too, Ian.
I hope that we can have a chat soon. I hope the readers and the people who are watching this enjoyed this interview. Have you got any last words for the people out there and your fans?
Well, I just want to thank them all, for watching the interview. And hopefully they'll be hooked on The Keeper of the Balance and, enjoy the books, reading the books as much as I'm enjoying writing them. And I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. And yes, I'm looking forward to, repeating it soon.
Awesome. Well, you can find Tito's books on bouncerpen.com, and you can also find him on Facebook, and you chat to him. I'm sure you'll reply as soon as possible. He's a very nice man.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm always up for a good chat. Absolutely. It will be my pleasure.
All right, Tito. Thanks for the interview. Good speaking to you.
Thank you very much. Liam, take care.
You too. Bye.